NSFW, murder attempt survivors, what happened?
My ex was insanely abusive. Left me for dead once, and I overheard him on the phone talking to someone about what to do with the body. He had put my head through the car window and dragged me inside and threw me onto the bathroom floor. I woke up because I started drowning in my blood. I managed to escape and call my mom. She got me a taxi to a hotel out of his area until I could get home the next day. She actually drove there to pick me up from another state because I had too many injuries to fly. Police didn't do much because I crossed state lines. Cops were very uncooperative. Kept saying they'd get back to me. Checked out his place. Found some blood, chalked it up to a domestic dispute. I got exhausted from the whole thing. A year later, he dated another girl. Cut her head off and dismembered her. He's serving like 25 to life, I think. Edit. I changed some details about location because this was getting kinda big. Maybe too little too late, but well.
Phew. Glad you survived. That girl's death is on those cops as much as him. Take care.
Thank you. It sure was. She had a name similar to mine and looked like me too. Another eerie layer.
My drunk husband came home in the middle of the night while I was sleeping. He was pissed off at me for some unknown reason and got on top of me in bed and strangled me to the point where he thought he had killed me. When I came to, he was sitting on the side of the bed crying. He had choked me so badly that I had broken blood vessels in my eyes. I never spent another night under the same roof as him, and we divorced soon after.
I'm so sorry.
Well, years and years ago when I was in elementary school, a new student came, and I was essentially designated his friend. Fast forward a few months, and I'm having the sole play date I ever had with him, during which he attempted to throw darts at my head, and a few minutes later chases me around screaming at me holding a surprisingly large branch. His mother did not care, although she did call my mom when I asked to leave. Fast forward a few days, and he's being ushered out of the classroom and is no longer permitted near me, because the teacher caught him writing a letter detailing all of the ways he planned to torture and eventually execute me. When the school tried to have him tested, his mom pulled him out and sent him to a private school. He also threatened to tie me up in the woods, near the school, and come back at night with a knife. Sort of more a constant threat of murder situation than actual concerted murder attempt. Besides the play date thing, somehow I wasn't especially affected by that whole fiasco. Honestly, I was kind of somewhere in the realm of bemused. Although when I was reminded of him a couple of years later, I'll admit I had a few sleepless nights, possibly one hallucinatory vision of him crawling around on a ceiling. I got over it pretty soon after though. Welp, that's that, I guess.
Do you know what happened to him?
Nope, I had one friend who transferred to the same school as him, which is how I was reminded of him, but that was pretty much the last time I spoke to her. I do hope his mom let him get help eventually. Early when he wasn't in a rage, he was pretty nice, and had an odd fondness for hamsters.
I have a schizophrenic brother who started an argument when late teens over my dad giving me his old iPhone. He decided a rationale tactic was to chase me with a chainsaw, then try to chainsaw my car. Police came, but not before he broke my mother's ribs. I've had an intervention order against him since and don't consider him family.
Jesus Christ, you sure it was just schizophrenia?
Solo hiking, ran into two men who acted nice at first, then started following me on my trail. Things escalated. They beat me up pretty bad while trying to rape me. I fought like fury. I'm fit and used to do combat sports, so I was able to do quite a bit of damage right back. I think when they realized they themselves were taking too many hits, they cut their losses and fled. I have no doubt they would have killed me as well as raped me if I hadn't made it such an unholy battle for them to get me down. I was a mess, and still needed to hike back to civilization after that. I could write a beat book about that return hike. Eventually I made it out. I don't talk about it, like ever. I guess Reddit is as good a spot as any to put it down.
I'm sorry you had to go through that.
For me, a kid probably 5-6 years older and double my size tried to drown me. Thank God he was a weak, lanky teen.
Same experience. I was panicking as it was happening, and with a pool full of people, no one tried to help me.
Ended up having both my wrists broken with a Bible instead, 'cause he was arrested for breaking and entering.
Beep, what happened?
Happened to a friend of mine. Not super dramatic, but I see it as a murder attempt. I had a friend I met at university, Harry. Nice guy, and we hit it off. We even start playing social sports that went on well after we graduated university. One day he introduces us to a guy called Zane, a 6 feet 4 inches ex-military guy who works in security. I immediately don't like him because his personality is the worst, hyper-masculine douchebag, one UPS everyone, drinks too much and is just all-round unpleasant. I stopped playing social sports because I couldn't stand Zane, so I stopped seeing that group for a while. I catch up with a friend who is still good friends with Harry, and she tells me that one night during a gathering Zane just snapped and essentially tried to kill Harry by beating the beep out of him. Harry is 5 feet 4 inches, so it was not an even fight at all. Everyone at the party freaked out, and it took 3 or 4 people to pull Zane off. It was so bad that Harry ended up in hospital in pretty bad shape. Everyone is speculating that it's PTSD from his military service fueled by alcohol. I went to a party with Zane once, and the guy drinks a shitload. Harry has been experiencing residual effects, going to therapy, and he's also on antidepressants. He's also considering taking legal action, but there's a whole lot of baggage to sort out there before he does. Harry refuses to go to any events that he suspects Zane will be at. I also hear that Zane still taunts him about this incident. This guy is a total psycho.
Yep, sounds like an unhinged individual. That's really sad though. I couldn't imagine dealing with that. I'm sorry for your friend. I hope someone puts an end to the taunting, and I hope your friend gets the help that he needs.
My brother is prone to violent outbursts, and my mother is not very good at handling them, due to the fact that she's a beat parent and that she's only 5 feet 2 inches to his 6 feet 4 inches. One day when he was 18 and my sister was 11, they were arguing. I stepped in to try to mediate, knowing that if he went off on her she would be severely injured immediately. He completely snapped and picked me up by my neck, holding me against the wall and yelling at me. I couldn't reach the ground, but I was kicking him and trying to pry his fingers apart. I felt very faint, but I managed to get him to drop me onto the couch where I tried to breathe and told him he needed to go for a walk to calm down. Thankfully he did. I guess he realized that he'd taken it further than he meant to. There were other outbursts, but that one was the worst by far. No authorities were involved because they always hung up on me when I called, or if they did arrive, they believed he wasn't really a threat, just a good kid who had a bad day. My parents either didn't know or didn't believe me about this incident for a while, but we've since talked about it. I don't talk to that brother or my mom much, and I've had plenty of therapy to try and deal with all the feelings I have. When I was 12, my 9-year-old sister threw a chef's knife at me for taking the last cookie in the jar. Luckily she had beep aim and missed me despite only being 5 feet away from me. Neighbors heard me and my live-in perpetrator arguing/struggling, while I was being pinned against a wall and strangled. My neighbors called the cops. The cops came, but my perp sweet talked them into thinking it was a misunderstanding and that it was over. They left, but one cop had a bad feeling. Bless his heart, he waited outside. My perp came at me, dragging a knife along the wall, which made a creepy horror movie metallic sound, and I screamed. The cop broke the door down, saved me, and arrested my perp. Perp spent 3 months in a psych facility because they admitted to wanting to hurt me some more. To clarify, I'm saying a perp because they don't deserve to be acknowledged by name, gender, or relationship to me.
I respect that cop a lot, and I'm glad he waited, but it's scary that it can be talked out of so fast.
Reminds me about what happened to Gabby Petito, Uneasy Face.
Okay, this will read as if I am super confident and handled a situation exceptionally well, but in reality I handled it incredibly poorly, and the way it panned out is pure luck. I was in a club with a girl who I think was called Caroline, and, since I am not sure and it was 28 years ago, I will refer to it as Caroline. It was going well, except that I was very drunk, and when we went outside to spend some time together I sat on a bench and puked. She sat with me a while and wanted to walk me home, but I do not handle vomiting well, and it was her night. with lots of her friends in the club, so I insisted she go back in and I went off home alone. As we separated, a man came from the shadows with a knife. The sort of knife that has no real use apart from stabbing people with. It turns out that the Club A Browns had a beep night on a Thursday and he was out to murder a homosexual. It was the very early 90s and beep *** bashing was sadly a thing still. Anyway, he was very clear in outlining his plan and explained to me why he was going to do it, and, in my drunken state, I tried to argue that the club was not a beep club. I was not beep, and, anyway, look, I had been there with Caroline. He was having none of it. He has worked himself up to this and was visibly shaking with anxious excitement. He was going to knife me in the faces because I was giving money to a club that supported homosexuality. Also, I was English, which to his nationalist Scottish mind was absolute proof that I was a homosexual. I argued that I was leaving the awful place, walking away, so I was the good guy, and why not worry about Caroline instead, since she was going back to going then more cash. I was very drunk, and, whilst I fully recognized what was going on, I truly did not associate it with any actual fear of the outcome. It was a little like watching a scene in a video game. Anyway, this chap asked me which one was Caroline, and I said, "Here, give me the knife, I will do it." And he did. And I threw it on a roof and walked home. In the morning I remembered it, but was not even sure it had really happened. But that night I met up with everyone and I was some sort of hero, although I really was not. I was an idiot. The highlight in the storytelling was that I had thrown the knife right up into a gutter and then I walked very calmly away. In reality, I turned the way I had thrown the knife, felt a bit sick and forgot all about the chap who was going to stab me with it. His decision, upon losing the knife, to wander quietly away, saved me, much more than any of my own actions, some of which appear incredibly cowardly in the light of day.